Today I want to speak to you about the subject of helping others stay steady when life shakes their joy. And there's a lot of things that are coming from nowhere into somewhere and hitting us right between the eyes with surprise. And it shakes our confidence, it shakes our joy. We know that. But what do we do when we have friends that are going through a hard time like this and they are losing their joy, their confidence, they are doubting God? I mean, they're just doubting everything and they don't know what to do. How do we help steady them when life is shaking their joy? Well, I went to the Bible and I went to Acts 27 in the life of Paul, starting at verse 13. And Paul is on a ship and he's being taken to Rome, and he's going to stand trial before the Roman emperor. But he's on this ship, and we start in verse 13 and we find out what happens to him. It says, when a light wind began blowing from the south, the sailors thought they could make it. So they pulled up anchor and sailed close to the shore of the island of Crete. But the weather changed abruptly. Notice this, the weather changed abruptly, and a wind of typhoon strength called a northeaster caught the ship and blew it out to sea. Verse 18, the next day, as gale force winds continued to batter the ship, the crew began throwing the cargo overboard. Then the following day, they even took some of the ship's gear and threw it overboard. The terrible storm raged for many days, blotting out the sun and the stars until at last all hope was gone. We find here a normal trip being disturbed by a surprising thing in life. Now, life can be like that. It can change in an instant for us. We can have an unexpected physical diagnosis, or a financial blow, or a family crisis, or even a deep personal loss. It's moments like these that can shake a person's joy and leave all of us overwhelmed. The Bible, though, shows that when we're like this, we need to have Christian friends, and Christian friends can play a powerful role in helping others stay steady when life storms hit suddenly. I want to be that kind of person. I try to practice that as much as I can. And this gives us a vivid picture of something strategic that is all of a sudden, and it just takes them by surprise. They face this violent, unexpected storm, but yet Paul, and this is where we're going to learn the lesson, yet Paul remained calm, hopeful, and anchored in faith. And he helped stabilize everyone around him. And this passage shows us three steps Christian friends can take to support those who are going through a severe life crisis. And his response becomes a model for us on how believers can encourage others who feel overwhelmed. So again, today we're going to talk about three steps to help someone who is facing a sudden crisis. Step number one, speak God's encouragement with calm confidence. Later on in the passage, Paul is speaking to the sailors, and he says to them in verse 22, 25, and 26, "But take courage. None of you will lose your lives, even though the ship will go down. So take courage, for I believe God, it will be just as he said, but we will be shipwrecked on the island." In other words, he's not trying to paint them a rosy picture that everything is going to be okay instantly, but he is saying this may be drawn out, and we need to take courage in God who can take care of us. When everyone else panicked, Paul spoke hope, not hysteria. He reminded them of God's presence, God's promises, and God's care. So when a friend is overwhelmed by crisis, we who love Jesus should speak words that build faith, not fear. We need to remind them that God is still in control, even if the circumstances are not. And we need to use scriptural principles and promises to strengthen their heart. This kind of encouragement helps stabilize their emotions, and it restores a sense of hope. Step number 2 that we find here is in verses 33 through 36 of Acts 27, where it says, Paul encouraged all of them to eat. He took some bread and gave thanks to God. They were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. Paul did not just preach. He helped in a practical way. He paid attention to not only the spiritual needs of these people, but the physical needs of those around him. They were tired, they were starving, they were drained. Just his simple act of giving bread brought strength and comfort to everyone. So when we find someone who is facing a sudden crisis, we need to be physically present. Don't disappear. Don't say, I'll be praying for you, and then go somewhere. Stay near the phone. Stay ready to receive a text if they need help. Encourage them to rest, eat, breathe easy, and take small steps. And then provide physical help or practical help. If you yourself cannot do it, get someone else to help with their gifts of serving, and help them with meals or rides or childcare or errands, or just simply sitting with them and saying nothing and letting them know that you care. It's small acts of care that can anchor a person who feels like they're drowning emotionally. And then step number 3, help them take courage and move forward in faith. In Acts 27, 42 through 44, it says this, the soldiers wanted to kill the prisoners to make sure they didn't swim ashore and escape. But the commanding officer wanted to spare Paul, so he didn't let them carry out their plan. Then he ordered all who could swim to jump overboard and make for land. The others held on to planks or debris from the broken ship. Listen to the bottom line. So everyone escaped safely to shore. Paul helped them take the next steps towards survival. He guided them through decisions. He encouraged them to trust God's plan, and then he was with them and moved them toward safety and security. What does this say to us? Well, when a friend is in crisis, help them identify the next small step that they can take. Pray with them specifically that God will guide their decisions, and walk with them as they move forward. Not rushing them, but supporting them. You know, often, again, just to sum this up, people in crisis cannot hardly see the next step because their vision is so blurred by the anger and the doubt and the awful stuff that is happening in their life. But a steady Christian friend can come beside them and help provide direction and confidence. In closing out this message, I'm just going to tell you this, that this week, I'm going to ask that God will help me and that he will show me, first of all, people in crisis or a person in crisis that I can help. I'm going to ask him to help me when this time comes to have a word of encouragement to speak. And then I want to ask him in that situation that he brings me into, what is a practical action that I can take to help? And then I'm going to also ask him if I can pray in the situation with the person or with the people who are going through a rough time in life. And I want you to join me. I want you to pray that God would help you serve this week and help you to be a person that can come alongside someone, even if it's just sending a text of victory, saying that I know you're going through rough times, but I am praying for you. Or a phone call, that is, if people answer the phone anymore, and talk to them and to ask them if you could pray for them even over the phone. Be their steady friend through the storm, because God may be using you to guide them safely toward hope in the midst of a situation. Again, we want to help others stay steady when life shakes their joy. Ask God to give you that occasion that you can help, and then ask Him to empower you with the Holy Spirit to empower you to be the person that you need to be to help them be steady in life. May God bless you. We'll see you next week. I hope you have a wonderful week of serving Jesus.